All right, the next step is to replace these bullet points with game cards. So back to our project. Here in the components folder, let's add a new file called gamecard.tsx. We create a component. Now, we should pass a game object as a prop to this component. So first, we use an interface to define the shape of props. Here we add the game property of type game. Now, currently, we don't have access to the game interface because we didn't export it from our hook module. So let's go to use games and export this interface. With that, we can import this on the top. Now, importing an interface from a hook is kind of awkward, but we'll come back and revisit this later in the course. We don't want to get distracted from what we're working on right now, okay? So here we have an interface. Now let's add the props. Good. Now, instead of returning a div, we're going to return a card component. So we import card from Chakra. Now in this card, we're going to add an image. Again, make sure to import the image component in Chakra. Now here we should set the source to, now back to the documentation of ROG API. Look, each image has a property called background underline image. We need to add this to our interface. So here in the game interface, we add a property called background underline image of type string. With that, we can go back to our card component and set the source to game.backgroundImage. So here's our image. Now, right after, we need to add a card body component. Inside the body, for now, we're just going to add a heading. This is another component in Chakra. And here we're going to render game.name. So we're building the basic skeleton, and then we'll improve it step by step, okay? Let's test this implementation up to this point. So we go back to our game grid component. Now we're going to replace this unordered list with a simple grid. We should also change the closing tag, simple grid. Now here we can set the columns to, let's say, 3, and apply a space of, let's say, 10 pixels, so our cards are not so close to each other, okay? Now we're going to replace this list item with a game card. We set the key to game.id and pass the game as a prop. Let's see what we get. So back in the browser. All right, it's not too bad. The first thing I want to improve here is the border radius of these cards. Currently, they have sharp corners. I don't like them. So back to the game card component. Here we apply a border radius of, let's say, 10 pixels. Look what happened. We have round corners on the bottom, but not on the top. Because this image is bigger than its container, that's why we don't see the border radius. To solve this problem, we need to set overflow to hidden. This is just basic CSS. If you're not familiar with these concepts, you really need to take my HTML course. So here we set overflow to hidden. With that, we get round corners on the top as well. Beautiful. Now, the next thing I want to improve here is the size of the headings. Currently, our headings are way too big. So back to our card, here's our heading. I'm going to set the font size to, let's say, 2x large. These font sizes are predefined in Chakra. So here on Chakra documentation, if you search for font size, look, we have all these font sizes like 6x large, 5x large, and so on. Okay. So we set this to 2x large, and with that, our headings become smaller, much better. Now the next thing we want to work on is the number of columns. We don't always want to render 3 columns because on small devices, we don't have enough real estate. So on mobile devices, we want to have a single column. On tablets, we want to have 2 columns. And on larger screens, we want to have 3 or more columns. So here in the game grid component, instead of setting the columns to a hard-coded value like 3, we pass an object. Here we set properties like small to 1. That means on a small device, we're going to have 1 column. Next, we set medium to 2, large to 3, and extra large to, let's say, 5. Let's see what we get. So let's bring up Chrome DevTools. We click on this icon. Now, on a small mobile device, we're going to have a single column. Let me take the Chrome DevTools out so we can see things clearly. All right, so here's what we see on a mobile device. We have a single column, but our card is so close to the edges of the screen. It's better to apply a little bit of padding here. So back to our grid. Here I'm going to apply a padding of 10 pixels. Let's see what we get. Okay, that's better. So this is what we get on a mobile device. Now on a larger mobile, we still have a single column. That looks good. On a tablet, we have 2 columns. That's beautiful. Look, this is the beauty of using Chakra. With Chakra, we quickly built this interface without writing a lot of CSS. So this is what we get on a tablet. Now on a larger screen, like on a laptop, we're going to have 3 columns. Now I think on a laptop, we still need to have 2 columns because look, the side panel is currently squashed. But let's not worry about it at this point. We'll come back and revisit this when we implement the side panel. So let me resize my browsing window. Good. So finally, let's review and commit our code to Git. Here I'm going to say building game cards.